Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from Astrolada.com, and today, back by popular demand, is the astrologer Donny from Singapore. We've been the last prediction you did for us, which was almost 2 years ago. It had like 200,000 views, and people were like, "It's all coming true." You predicted so many things. I don't even remember. It was such a long video that you said so many things that came true, and you're coming back with another bomb, and it might be scandalous. Even Donny warned me and he said this video might be demonetized. It might be so. Let's hope it doesn't happen, but he has some heavy hitting predictions and insights for us. Hello, Donny.
Hello. I think I'm in my unhinged era. So with that said, I think there's no point sugarcoating at this point because we are already like 3 years into the 2020s and we have already witnessed what has been playing out. And so, and I guess also I'm getting to the age whereby, yeah, I just like, you know what? Nah, nothing really matters.
And you have Uranus transiting your moon, so you're like that. I'll say whatever I think.
Scoring my Mars and Saturn as well. I'm like, control freak. No, I'll just throw that out the door. So I think for the purpose of this video, because I'm also being hit by the new moon as we record this video on the Leo new moon, that I'm going to talk about. I hope I'm not being like a fruit salad or choppy and sloppy with my presentation, but I just want to paint to the audience like what is the energy of this Leo Venus star point that we just had. It happened on Sunday. And before I actually go there, people have asked me what's my viewpoint on what's actually going on in Hawaii.
Okay, tell me.
And that one is actually, I would say I'll do this as a prelude before I do the Leo Venus star point, because this is more tied to the Libra Venus star point that we just had for the 9.5 months, but it's still somewhat active in the background. So let me just screen share this particular chart. Okay, so this is the inception chart. That means the moment where the Libra Venus star point was born, and this actually happened back in the last week of October 2022, and this lasted for 9.5 months, but it's still like within the 5 star points because we are looking at things more holistically from a pentagram perspective. So you can see what I've actually circled here, and this is like the main energy of the Libra Venus star point, the first Libra star point that we have since 1879 actually. And we're going to fully swing into a Libra star point from a Scorpio one by the beginning of the next decade. That means 2030, because we still got one last star point hovering at around 1 degree of Scorpio, and then we'll fully switch into Libra. So let's just zoom in on this 2022 Libra star point. And this inception chart, or the Venus star point birth chart, has got this asteroid here, which is at 29 degrees 28 minutes. This is called Haumea, which is an asteroid. And Haumea in mythology is really about the Hawaiian goddess of fertility and childbirth. She's also mother of the fire and volcano goddess Pele.
Oh my God.
And the name Haumea was actually given to a dwarf planet from the Kuiper Belt region in the solar system that's close to Scorpio. And we all know Scorpio is the planet of the underworld and utter obliteration and destruction. Okay. And what's beside Haumea over here is you can see Chiron with an N. This is actually the north node of Chiron. A lot of us only talk about lunar nodes, but other planets and also asteroids, they have their north node and south node too. So I just find it very interesting that the north node of Chiron is also at 29 degrees of Libra, bang on top of that Libra star point. So when we talk about Chiron, there's about to be, pain, hurt, destruction, being scapegoated, alienated, abandoned, all those themes that Chiron is, and the North Node really help to magnify that like a magnifying glass, just like what Rahu actually does. And at around the times of the Maui fires, transit Capricorn is actually around 29 degrees of Capricorn. Transit Pluto is around 29 degrees of Capricorn in square to this 29 degrees Libra point, very tightly. And also the transit nodal axis, particularly the south node, is also at 29 degrees of Libra. So you've got south node conjuncting this point, and you've got Pluto via transit squaring this point. So there's a flavor of south node, and Pluto is like just mass destruction. The energy of mass destruction is pretty eminent. And also at the same time, Neptune, around like earlier part of August, this month is around like 27 degrees of Pisces as well. And it's forming like what I call a quincunx or inconjunct with this 29-degree Libra point. And this really adds to the helplessness, delays in notifications, and also like help or aid in arriving on scene, leaving the residents there to fend for themselves, really, in this catastrophe. Neptune rules catastrophes. And the trigger medium, which is fire in this case, can be attributed, because this actually happened right shortly after Venus actually stationed at 28, 29 of Leo. And then she went retrograde. And Leo, as we know, is a fire sign. And 28, 29 degrees of Leo is sextiling this 29 Libra point. And also, if you look at this inception chart, Jupiter is at 0 degrees of Aries, which is one of the world axis points. 0 degree of the cardinal points is so important because 0 degree of the cardinal signs represents like the change of season. And 0 degree Aries is one of them. And Jupiter in fiery Aries, so it's like fire, expanded fire, literally. And so it brings in the fire medium that is going to destroy, mass destroy a certain part of the world. And we've got Saturn over here as well, at the tail end of Taurus. And the tail end of Taurus is very close to this fixed star called Alcone or the Pleiades. So it's about being blindsided, not able to or not wanting to see certain stuff. So this can really rope in the theme of like the residents over there in Maui basically are being blindsided with the inability to get help at all. So this is what I have just as like a starting point, because I need to wrap this up before we actually move into the Leo star point in which it just happened. So let me just...
So each because I know you're a specialist, Donny is an incredible specialist as Venus star points. These are every time Venus makes a conjunction with the sun. So you're saying that it predicts the next 9 months approximately. Just like
yes, so
on October 22nd, yeah.
So this star point actually started, well, around, 22nd, 23rd of October last year. And it fully kind of got superseded or taken over by the Leo star point on the 13th of August of this year, which is last Sunday.
And we're going to analyze now this one. And by the way, Donny is offering a big discount on his Venus star point readings. It's down from $500 to $200 and something. So if you'd like that, he basically looks how the star points affect you for years ahead. And it's very comprehensive reading. You can read the testimonials about Donny's readings. So
I'm still kind of shocked by the testimonials, really.
yeah, I'm putting the link below. So if anyone wants a personal reading with Donny, he's, offering this for us. Anyway, sorry.
It's good. It's all good. And so you can see just from the star point, and the Maui fires basically happen right before the inception of the next Venus star point. So this 29-degree Libra star point is still very much active and being activated right at the end of its, 9.5-month cycle.
Yeah, because Pluto activated it in the nodes, basically.
Yeah. And that's why we've got Chiron, Homea, activated by South Node and, transit Pluto. And then we've got transit Neptune also. I was like, oof, this, we can't catch a break. And guess who get to do a PR stunt and benefit from this destruction?
Oh.
Oprah.
Oh, okay.
because she actually bought some land right earlier this year.
Yeah.
So I don't see her as being someone who's more, so generous or magnanimous, so to speak, and she's got her own agenda.
Well, what is going to happen now? They're going to get this land from the locals and so the plans were a few months ago that Maui will be the first totally smart control island. So they needed to clear up where the locals own land because, and take it. So there's like that's my favorite island in all the world. And I don't know if they make it smart, if I'm ever gonna go there again. But
smart city doesn't mean it actually increases its productivity, the way they are trying to lay it out. So I find it very contradicting.
Very sorry.
In many ways. They call it smart cities, but is it really that it increases productivity?
No,
having
it's control.
It is basically, you said it best. And let me just share another. It's almost like a segue chart because we are having a Leo star point that is squaring Uranus really tightly.
And it will affect us the next 9 months, you say?
At least it could be longer because this is a morning star, and a morning star phase Venus star point actually lasts much longer.
Ah, okay.
It's like start of a whole 8-year cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just like to share this little nugget of information. And this is really, I think this chart basically summarizes best where we are at on a global economy and financial background, where we are at. And this M1, M2, particularly M2, what I'm showing here, and M3, these are all like money aggregates, because I do have a, background in economics as well. And so it's like these in macroeconomics, these are just money aggregates or just like money supply system. And this chart here, I find it very concisely capture like when the government print money and how the interest rates are moving, what does it cost throughout history? And all these are actually linked to like a depression in the past. And we are not so far into this process in 2023.
So the big spikes are when the governments print money?
Yeah, the money supply. Yeah.
And the thing that goes down is hyperinflation, loss of...
We are actually on the verge of deflation, the opposite of inflation. And deflation means the prices are coming down.
Well, how is that?
And inflation, how is that bad? Because the thing is that if you think about inflation, at least when there's an inflation, if you are a producer or a supplier of goods, inflation means that you can still afford to increase the workers' wage, pass that on. Imagine if it's deflation, your profits got squeezed up, down, left, and right, and demand is not very high, because this when we talk about deflation and also like recession, because there's no demand.
I've seen it with my business already.
Yeah. So it's not because you were like reducing supply, you're actually reducing demand. And so the prices, somehow you have to actually like capture it. But having said that, if you have like people working for you, can you actually pass, or can afford to increase their wages? Most likely not. You have to bite and like just reduce your profit, so your profit margin gets squeezed. Even so, does that give you the incentive to do better?
But you're saying prices will start coming down now. It's not gonna be okay, because it was...
I think this one is very dominant in China because they just came out of a zero COVID. policy, like they just lifted, I think, back in December 2022 under the Libra star point.
Yeah.
And they're now seeing like everything just magnify and all the crap is just shoved in their face. The effects of closing their economy for close to 3 years. Yeah, what does it? All the factories have moved and all that. I will talk about China a bit later because they have a whole like mumbo jumbo of issues going on over there.
Okay.
And this may actually lead to one of the undesirable thing that I'm about to talk about later, which is more wars coming our way with this Leo star point, unfortunately. Yeah. And I just want to like show the audience that, like coming panic, and I suppose we gotta all do some kind of preparation and also become more defensive in our investment portfolios. If you just want to readjust, Leo rules gold, wink wink.
Oh, great idea. People asking me, can you predict about gold? I'm like, I don't know finances, but there we go.
Leo is gold, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and that's where we have the Venus Sun star point. So that's
yeah, and this is a morning star, so it's a longer kind of 8-year process. But there'll be like a middle point of like a 4-year mark. You can think about a morning phase Venus star point as like a new moon, but instead of the moon, we replace the moon by Venus.
yes, and it's much
So
longer period duration. Yeah.
yeah, and let me just what should I share next? Okay, let's get to it then. So let us look at how about the inception chart? And so this is the moment where Sun and Venus actually kiss each other in the sky or cosmically last Sunday. And this happened at 20 degrees, 28 minutes of Leo. And from this chart, you can see where the conjunction point is. And this is in the closest major aspect that this Venus star point points to is that square towards Uranus. So Uranus and Taurus is very much digital currency. Uranus is digital and Taurus is financial system. And is squaring Venus star point in Leo, which actually talks about central bank. So central bank digital currency.
Okay, Leo is centralization. Okay, and you're
and squaring Uranus in a sign of Taurus, so it's financially. There's a central financial system in digital form.
It's coming, yeah.
So it's that square.
Yeah.
And so it's a part of a longer cycle. And I suppose this also is on the backs of the BRICS economy, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and also South Africa. They are trying to dethrone the gold standard of currency, which is right now the US dollar. And they're trying to de-dollarize and push out their own as well. And they're trying to find friends to form alliance to topple the gold standard in the fiat currency system.
So they're bringing it very soon. They're bringing back the gold standard currency. So again, another topic of Leo Venus, the gold.
Yeah, and it's like because the BRICS current digital currency that they are pushing out, I think it's $55 US pegged to one BRICS dollar,
wow.
And this is going to be gold backed as well. So gold, Leo, square Uranus and Taurus in digital currency form, but it's gold backed. Yeah.
So it will be digital currency, the BRICS that they bring, another central controlled currency.
From what I gather leading up to this interview, it seems like India is not comfortable with substituting their Indian rupees with this BRICS currency. So right now it's like a half-baked idea in a sense that the BRICS currency will be used as a trading currency predominantly, but it doesn't supersede the country's own currency, so to speak.
So we're gonna get a new digital currency, but this one is gold back, while the others are kind of made up.
Well, it's just like open up the money printing machine and off we go. So And of course, this ties into the US debt ceiling issue as well. That's also a bit gnarly, right? I've actually, let me see, I've actually put here, well, it's, it's a bit small, sorry, in terms of font, but I basically utilize for this particular star point the concept of midpoints. So midpoints is basically like the shortest middle distance between any 2 points in a chart, really. Because when we plot the chart in a circular form, there's only so much we can gather. And I use midpoints to kind of give like a richer picture of what the picture can be. And this Leo Venus star point basically has a few interesting midpoints that I want to elaborate. So in terms of direct midpoints, when I say direct midpoints, it means that the middle distance between any 2 points in the chart falls directly on 20 Leo. Okay, so this has got Vesta Ceres midpoint, Moon Mars midpoint, and Pallas Juno midpoint. Let me go through one by one what it can mean. Because whatever that the star point hits on it, it actually is like a cosmic highlighter of sorts. It highlights the things, it brings it into our collective mindset, and also cultural shifts, and also values that birth itself. That's what Venus star point is about. And let me talk about the first direct midpoint, which is Vesta Ceres midpoint. Bang on that, close to that 20-degree Leo Venus star point. This can be talking about, I mean, basically Vesta Ceres midpoint can be talking about a location for help or care for mothers and children. This can also mean surrogate farms as well. So there's a lot of like news in the media talking about surrogate farms, and you know, Leo is also talking about celebrities. So celebrities who own surrogate farms, baby factories. I think that's what's happening in the underground bunker in Ukraine right now. They're having like baby factories.
Yeah. All the kids' organs and stuff.
Yeah, and Vesta series can also talk about resignation. So this can be like a prominent politician, perhaps, that's about to resign, or more than several. And Vesta series on top of the Venus star can also be about loss of home and family. This ties back to what's happening in, unfortunately, Maui, but I think it's also happening in other parts of the world, such as like in Greece. I think was it in Spain as well. There's also fires everywhere, literally. In Canada, of course. And it's about that displacement from home. When I talk about Vesta series midpoint, it's also about sacrifice of life. So there's an element of scapegoat using the lives of people. It also can be denial of the fullness of living. I mean, we are living in a time of austerity. We gotta economize, so that's kind of understandable. And Vesta series also talks about famines. So there can be like a shortage of grains, in which I'll touch on a bit later, because there is actually the asteroid of grains series opposing Chiron. So it's even more obvious here. And yeah, I think the next thing I wrote pertaining to this midpoint is about locations where food and grain security is prominently featured as themes and motivations for decisions subsequently. And the next direct midpoint is Moon and Mars. So Moon and Mars, literally their middle point, bang on this Venus star point. And it's really about perhaps violence, attacks, and even fights directed towards biological women. And conventional
Moon, yeah, and Mars.
So, and conventionally feminine functions
Family
as well.
Oh.
So because like this thing here called Black Moon Lilith is not far from this Venus star point. And so it's like that angry, suppressed feminine comes out, but it's coming from perhaps the people who are not biologically women. That means I'm talking about the effects of the woke agenda. This includes the trans agenda. This can be attributed to the trans agenda, and there can be a lot of like, oh, let's do artificial uterus into trans women, and they can also have children, right? Or invasion of space of biological women, such as like changing rooms and the blowback, you know what I mean? We we already like heard a lot of such things blowing up, or in the media being talked about, or what defines a woman. All those things. And this is really like accurately captured here. And there's also like a tendency to be very reckless as well. Moon and Mars captured by this VSP, and a tendency to overreact. So making mountains out of molehills, I think that's what it is. Because there's a lot of fiery feelings, because Leo is a fire sign, right? Very excitable, but also very easily irritable as well.
And may I add, Moon naturally rules people on the whole. And as you said, more even common traditional people, and Mars is anger. So there might be not just the attack on families and family traditions, but people responding back, kind of reacting.
Yeah, because the moon in this inception chart, the moon is in its rulership sign in Cancer. And Mercury as well is in its home sign in Virgo, getting ready to retrograde. So these two planets in domicile or in the sign of rulership says a lot. You know what I mean? People are not shy to just let it rip and voice their opinions. And it'll be happening on a very instinctual basis, because moon is in Cancer is very instinctual, and you'll just kind of speak up in the moment. So everything is very spontaneous in that sense. And the last direct midpoint will be Pallas and Juno midpoint. And Pallas and Juno midpoint is literally talk about traditional family structure. And with Moon and Mars also landing on the same spot, that means like attacking on the traditions of it. Like what is the
Yeah. Wow. That's
and some kind of practical legal action may be put forth as well. But when I think about practical legal action, this can be also due to the foreign body liquid that some of us have chosen to take in the last few years, and the accompanying lawsuits that may come forth as well. And this may actually really be kicking start in this morning star phase Leo star point, because don't forget, Leo is the heart.
Oh my God. So you think it will continue, all those heart attacks and things that they increase?
Squaring Uranus. Uranus is erratic.
Sudden. The electric impulse, and yeah.
Taurus is rhythm, right? Like music. Heart rhythm irregularities.
Oh wow.
Isn't that talking about myocarditis and also like people just dropping, Yeah.
Yes, because it's continuing. It's so big now. Wow. And that
with this,
how long you said this?
Okay, if I would it's at least for the next 4 years.
At least 4 years.
Yeah, at least until 2027, around the same time, like August. Yeah. But if you talk about the longer period, it's about 8 years. But the halfway point is like the so-called like the Venus full moon period.
Wow.
That means the evening star Leo Venus star point that will happen in 2027 August next, around the same day, 12th or 13th of August, if I recall.
So it's considered from Venus morning star to Venus from this.
So it's like so if you count like Leo star point right now we're having the morning star phase. That's when Venus retrograde kissed the sun. So it forms like so-called like the new moon lunar phase.
Yeah.
4 years later, we've got Venus and Sun kissing in Leo again, but this time it's in direct motion.
Okay.
So it's an evening star. And then 4 years later, we've got another Venus retrograde in Leo kissing the sun that forms another morning star.
The build-up period is 4 years, and then the down period and that. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like total period is 8 years, but if you chop it right in the middle, that's like the culmination point.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. So just to clarify this, because that's my launch video with Lada in 2020. I think was done in Leo season as well. In August, I think it's around the same week if I recall.
Oh so wow! Okay.
Yeah. So it's like an anniversary. This brings me way back. And so let me talk about the indirect midpoint. When I say indirect midpoint, which means that the The midpoint can be around 20 degrees of Aquarius, Taurus, or Scorpio. Okay, that's aspecting this 20-degree Leo point. And indirect midpoint structures can involve Jupiter, Uranus. That's very telling already. Chiron, Vesta midpoint, and also Pluto, Pallas midpoint. So I'll go through just one by one. So let me talk about Jupiter, Uranus midpoint, aspecting the Venus star point at 20 Leo. This can be literally battle for supremacy in the field of microchip dominance, because Uranus is micro processing chips, because we use so many chips in our lives, right? From fridges to cars to our phones, tablets, you name it. And there'll be this kind of struggle for dominance pertaining to that. I think I'm referring to like China versus US. So, and other countries are like scrambling for the, this is also tied to the story for Africa as well, because there's a lot of needed raw materials coming from Africa in order to make microchips.
And it's in Taurus. Taurus is raw materials and resources.
Raw material resources, yeah. And also not forgetting Uranus is nuclear stuff. So nuclear invasion or threats because of that square. If you think about Jupiter, Uranus midpoint, isn't it like a, you know?
Oh, expanded explosions.
Yeah, and also it's also talking about reversal of fortunes in the technological sector. I can tell you this, that a lot in the tech sector are being retrenched, because it's almost like the, you know, with the introduction of like ChatGPT and also other AI tools, the workforce is really like in a very accelerated pace, optimizing itself in terms of efficiency.
Oh, so they're cutting a lot of people off. They'll be okay.
And if you think about it, what is it, blue collar jobs or white collar jobs that are trying to like trim down a lot? White collar jobs, right?
Yeah.
And is it males or females who are disproportionately more involved in blue or white collar jobs? Females.
Is it? Oh wow.
There's disproportionately more females in white collar jobs than blue collar jobs.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You don't see a lot of female plumbers, do you?
Okay, it makes sense.
Electrician, and why do you think it's tied to the trans agenda, right? If you think about it, to actually eliminate or try to change the definition of women, you see it's all linked in this case.
Wow. What is
yeah.
What is the ultimate goal of that? What do you think? Why?
I mean, depopulation agenda, right? I mean, if you want to be brutally honest,
that's the bottom line.
Everything is just converging into, you know, the conversation.
That's the top, yeah.
Yeah, and if you talk about Jupiter, Uranus, there's also this expanded desire to become independent. So I think there'll be a lot of struggles and urges for some states or countries to go independent within this Leo star point as well. I think this is happening all around the world, really. I couldn't name the countries because it's just too much. Yeah. My one bring back.
Yes, you're right. But there is also this feeling of Taurus. There's this feeling Taurus, you know, that Ukraine is Taurus, apparently ruled by Taurus. So they want to be independent from Russia, but now they're dependent on the West fully, on the States. But there is also like, I feel, because it's involved, this Uranus, Jupiter in Taurus squaring the Venus point, something about independence of food resources. Or
very much that nodal axis tied to that Ceres and Chiron opposition.
Talk about that, yeah. But also it's like almost like making the food resources such innovations that with Uranus, Jupiter, that it's totally different way of how we get food. That's another way it can play out as well.
I mean, we are already 3D printing
human meat.
Lab grown meat, yeah, because Uranus can be laboratory, right? Yeah.
Yes, laboratory, yeah. So
Taurus can be referring to the cow, right? Yeah. So
that's big part for the many years ahead, obviously. Still.
I mean, we covered previously like a particular midpoint. I think it's Vesta series midpoint that talks about famines and potential grain shortages. So yeah, this may actually be the motivation for them to like, yeah, go with the food technology route. And there will also be conflicts concerning differing life philosophies and also ideologies as well. Because Uranus is about ideology. You hold, Taurus, hold your ideology and belief system, Jupiter. Scoring that star point means that there's going to be conflicts.
But
And
this
we're
is
gonna,
also ownership, private property, and ideologically there will be clash between private property and Leo centralization. I see something.
I think also going back to the point of central bank digital currency, when I see Jupiter, Uranus, and Taurus, this actually means that your assets, Taurus, under the new system, everything will be tokenized. Everything is a token. And you can, and since it's a square, you better watch what you say because you'll be shut out. Yeah.
Wow.
Your house also next time will be a token. So,
Wow.
because Taurus is like the basic stuff like shelter, food, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this square with that Jupiter-Uranus midpoint is also trying to push us to liberate ourselves, to be more free. So this can be like living off grid. This can be also this square. I've got a friend who's trying to build his new life in Thailand, having a plot of land and growing his own from Singapore. So kudos to him. That's this square that's coming here trying to live off grid basically and not
Yeah.
be.
It's gonna be a bit hard because it's a square, but it's
But square can also push you, right? Yeah. When
yes,
there's no challenge, you can't feel the push.
absolutely. There'll be ways out, and I think a lot of good things will come out of that as well. I mean, especially if you're not inconvenient for the system, all this digitalization and tokens and whatever will be making it easy. But for people like us, we better watch out.
Oh yeah, we are just like mere mortals, right? We're the commoners. So the next indirect midpoint will be Chiron and Vesta. Okay, so this one is a bit Chiron Vesta midpoint aspecting the VSP in Leo can represent like Chiron Vesta midpoint can represent like healing locations, including hospitals, clinics, and health spas. It can also symbolize people who are moved from their homes involuntarily or away from their families due to endangerment in some ways. It can also infer orphanages, orphans. Locations for displaced people, such as refugee camps. So we may even see more like of the refugee situation going crazy. People who are in exile or isolation in some way, shape, or form. And that's because their homes and environments as a whole, collectively, are kind of bleak and deteriorating. So there comes a point whereby, is it worth the effort to conserve or to prevent, to save or to restore in some manner? And last but not least, Chiron Vesta midpoint can often refer to like graveyards and also morgues and also dumps as well, DUMPS, dumps. Last but not least, I actually written here that Chiron Vesta midpoint aspecting that Leo Venus star point can also be talking about people in charge, Leo star point, who are perhaps responsible for countries harming their own population.
For
Other
countries,
countries.
what? For countries doing what?
People in charge of or responsible for countries harming their own population and also other countries.
Countries calming there? I don't understand. Sorry.
Okay, so people in charge of or responsible for, that means indirectly I'm talking about WEF.
Yes.
World Economic Forum.
Okay.
Responsible for countries harming their own population and also other
Harming.
countries.
Harming.
Harming.
Sorry.
Harming. Chiron is harming, is to cause harm. Yeah.
Harm. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also talks about exploited colonies as well, such as those in Africa right now. We are seeing the movement of wars, building up.
Wow.
I know. Go on and sigh all you want. So I think last but not least, there's Pluto and Pallas midpoint. And Pluto and Pallas midpoint aspecting this VSP in Leo, it can be like a lot of people may experience like upheaval in their careers, which is pretty humbling because it can probably knock off their high horse if they so far have been living this life in which like stable career and this Venus star point comes around and cause, you to be perhaps retrenched, laid off. It can really be a humbling experience, I would say. And this can also mean financial institutions and or government functions being called into question. I think we kind of can see that play out as well. And last but not least, Pluto Pallas midpoint can also be talking about spying, as in SPY, spying or more broadly underworld-related activities, perhaps being highlighted or surfaced up to be seen by the public to have their opinions on. Is that Moon and Mercury in rulership. So there's a lot to unpack here already just by talking about midpoint.
Yes. Wow.
And to just kind of paint like a short backdrop, the Leo Venus star point actually started or was birthed recently in history back in 1987. So not too far back actually. And this Leo star point will actually be alive or still be in the sky cosmically until 2100. So we still got some more ways to go. And this Leo star point came from Virgo because Venus star points are moving backwards so directly.
Yeah.
Okay. And when I think about Leo star point, Hollywood comes to mind. Leo. Social media influencer like yourself. It's, people who got a lot of followers.
Yeah.
And it's also about because it's a Venus star point, you also can talk about Leo fashion as well.
Yes. Last I heard them saying that by 2030 we'll all be wearing uniforms.
I mean, squaring Uranus, isn't it standardized uniforms?
Standardized uniforms. Please don't, no. I can live with central digital currency, but no. I'm kidding.
And when I think about Leo on a more broader term, it's really about like personal creativity and, personal self-expression, right? And Leo is also to me because it's naturally linked to like the fifth house. So it's also about entrepreneurship as well. You being your own boss, you call the shots.
So these are the very good sides of it that we can experience.
Not all bad, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's almost like this entrepreneurial showmanship, Leo, that comes through with this Leo star point. And since this Leo star point was actually birthed in 1987, the very first one at 29 degrees conjunct Regulus, actually. Because it swings backwards, right? So it starts from 29 and moves its way back. And if you think about it, 1987, isn't that part of your generation ladder, like the millennials?
Must be, yeah. That's
the millennials and how millennials have kind of shifted or shaped the new workplace timings and structures. Like it's no longer that rigid 9 to 5.
Yeah. Leo is, I also see Leos as more, creative, not only creative, but there's more freedom in Leo as well.
And if you think about that creative energy, does it stick to the 9 to 5 format? Like sit down there on the desk 9 to 5? No, right? It's more of like it comes, you know what I mean? And so it's like more flexible in that sense. And I think that this star point squaring Uranus, there'll be more coming from the millennials and also Gen Z that's coming up to ask for like, more flexible working hours, like work from home, like do a hybrid, you know what I mean? Do a hybrid. Some days in the office, some days at home, And there's going to be more like birthing of entrepreneurs this square.
Oh yeah, that's a great thing. Thank you for bringing those positive things as well.
No, because I want to counterbalance. Gemini. I like to. I can't. Yeah, it's depressing. Um, and going back to the Leo star point, like birthing itself in 1987. If you think about 80s fashion, big hair,
Portfolio.
super big. I know my mom has like back then the perm is like this poodle perm. Looks like a poodle from her from the back, you know what I mean? And then high heels and gold, Leo gold
Don't,
with a
is that coming
gold
back?
belt. Squaring Uranus, you know what? And
Might.
that Uranus midpoint, I think can be a trend, really. Yeah. Yeah. Like gold dripping in gold, the goddess, you know what I mean? Like just that, Egyptian Cleopatra kind of energy when I think of Leo. Uh and people perming their hair maybe to get it bigger, more voluminous, like the mane,
I
lion.
agree. I like that.
And of course, the shapes are more exaggerated, you know what I mean? It's more like, oh, shoulder pads.
Baby.
So it's that exaggerated, like, come look at me, like all the shoulder pads. And it's all meant to stand out, you know what I mean? And if I were to think about celebrities that's born under the Leo Venus star point, we've got Adele, the singer.
She's
We've
born.
got Lizzo,
Yeah.
the big girl singer who's recently in trouble. Jessie J, the singer. Shane Dawson and Trisha Paytas, I think they are YouTube celebrities. And also Rihanna.
So they will be coming up again.
I think there will be some conversations. I think like one of the names I mentioned, like Lizzo, is like she's already gotten into some hot waters with recent
Oh,
lawsuits. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like, but these are the celebrities I can kind of think about when I think about the Leo star point, and they're just unapologetically themselves, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And they own it. Leo, they own it
Ask you
from the heart.
something. If people are asking for investments, what is a good idea from what you're seeing in the coming near future, a bit further future? You said gold already. That's something.
Okay, going back to that square, I think it's very Taurus is stable. Taurus is also coins. Uranus is digital. Squaring the sun, gold backed.
So the bricks.
Not necessarily. There's also other gold backed stable digital coins.
Oh, this is great idea. Thank you. I did not know they existed already. Gold back.
Yeah, let's go back, but it doesn't kind of go crazy.
Yes, it stays.
It doesn't go crazy.
Yes.
Let's go back to other forms of digital currency. So yeah, tell Matthew that.
Great advice. Thank you. Now, your mind is so brilliant as an astrologer, Donny. I mean, you use such things like midpoints I would never have thought, and even what's that called, like a Ceres and other planetoids, but you see the meaning so beautifully, and so thank you so much. I mean, maybe you still have things to say. I just wanted.
I mean, this can be blamed on my Asian heritage, right? I've got a tiger mom growing up. If you score 5 upon 100 for a test, there's still an F in her eyes, put it that way. Yeah. So there's good and bad under those kind of, being raised under those circumstances. So, and this Venus will still continue to square in her retrograde phase Uranus, and also Jupiter as well 3 times before she like finally get out of Leo. And we have Venus in Leo until like beginning of October. It's a very long time, yeah. And if I think about what I mentioned earlier with you, like the 8-year cycle, so the last morning star phase Venus star point actually happened in 2015. And back then, Venus was also retrograding predominantly in Leo. And back then, was it there's the legalization of same-sex marriage act by the Supreme Court,
That was the same summer. Exactly.
and there's the under the Leo star point influence as well.
Yeah.
And this time we have that square of the current Venus star point with the planet of law, Jupiter, and squaring also Uranus, the LGBTIAQ plus population. But this time it's a square. So I don't know if like lawmakers Jupiter are questioning whether was it like a wise decision to legalize same-sex marriage. I think it'd be called into question as well.
Really?
The square. Yeah. I don't know if it kind of like puts in jeopardy like Equality in Marriage Act. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for the non-hetero couples. So this is something that, it just came to my mind really. So with that moon and that Mars, because moon and Mars midpoint also lands around 20 degrees, right? The middle distance between these two planets. So people are not afraid to vocalize. And this may also represent some kind of pushback as well.
Okay.
So there may be something pertaining to that. Yeah, kind of missed out on that one. And not to forget that 4 years back is also like a Leo star point starting from 2019 August all the way to June 2020. And what have we experienced in 2020? Voila, you know what I mean? And this actually happened 4 years back also under the influence of the Leo star point. And I didn't generate the chart here, but what's interesting for the Leo star point inception or formation chart 4 years ago was that there was an inconjunct, which means a 150-degree aspect from the Leo star point. I think it's around 22 degrees of Leo to Pluto at 22 degrees of Capricorn. And what other planets are also joining that 22-degree Capricorn? Jupiter, Saturn, and also Ceres and Mars pass by that 22-degree Capricorn point, which is all in conjunct the 22 Leo transit Venus star point back then.
Yeah.
And the whole world went into lockdown, right?
Wow.
So you can see that, I mean, astrology doesn't lie, just to reiterate that.
You just need to be able to understand it because it's complex.
Yeah, because things that in conjunct, it actually can cause like, you can be blindsided by it. In conjunct can mean that because it's like misaligned, you can't see, because 150 degrees is like 6 signs apart and you can't really see it. It's not quite an opposition.
Exactly, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
you're blind.
Exactly. Yeah, you can get blindsided as well. When I see in conjunct, I see being blindsided, or you're just not able to put the pieces together. So that's what we, how long it took for us to kind of understand, what's really going on. And
this Venus star point doesn't have in conjunction so much as direct squares. So that would be
we can see it.
Blindsided, yeah. We can see.
Oh, we definitely can see it. And I mentioned earlier that Leo also represents Hollywood, right? Isn't the actors and writers strike in the USA been on the news? Yeah.
Yes, of course.
And squaring Uranus. Uranus isn't it labor union?
Yes, Uranus is unions, any kind.
And Taurus getting paid because of pay. So you can see just by one single thing, there's so many things that's being exposed.
There'll be a huge change now in the movie industry and the Hollywood, because now they can do they're actually talking about hiring actors that are young, doing a 3D version of them, and just using their, it's so cheaper, more cheaper than using a whole person. And
was it like for the latest Indiana Jones, they just kind of paid Harrison Ford for his face and then just
I don't know.
AI it onto the
wow. Yeah, now they can just pay some royalties for taking someone's face, or even create a actor who doesn't exist, and that's gonna be so many professions. Not, I mean, I don't know what to expect with AI coming. I started.
Maybe you can apply for trademark for your face, just in case.
Yes, you might have.
Oh no, actually it is real because Taurus can represent the face as well. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, you might have
Because
to.
otherwise people can use your face and use it for some organized crime Uranus purposes.
Yes, people have to do. I had a friend, they already did it to her recently. Someone said he's the prince, I'm sheikh of Dubai, whatever. And with AI, he was talking with her and she checked the pictures and he said, yes, I was talking with this person. And so it was, it's very easy to get scammed now. And someone telling you, I
Yep.
love you, to send me some money, here I am, I'm the true person. Oh, wow. We have to be careful.
I mean, if you think about Leo is love, right?
Yeah.
Jupiter and Uranus together in Taurus is scam.
Money scams. So use
And Uranus online love scams.
oh my God. If we're staring at this chart, we're gonna discover 100 other ways it can play out.
You know what I mean? So just I'm talking about just one square and it can just So and not to mention that Walt Disney is going woke, right? Apparently they are producing the Snow White film but without a white female. They chose a Colombian actress.
Well, I guess
And-
I don't, these things are okay. I mean, even the Little Mermaid black, even like Bridgerton or whatever, black and white people, I'm fine with that, but just some of the other things that go too far and
and the seven dwarfs in the Snow White remake, only one of them is a little
oh
person.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and that's like, so
Breaking
I wrote,
stereotypes, breaking.
but like the name is Snow White, so I want to see something white. Like,
Oh
you know, I'm
you're okay that at least you're Asian. Otherwise, you'd get a lot of attacks.
so
That.
no, I mean it's like that's why I wrote down here like Disney going woke and going broke over the box office losses, square right losses, and Jupiter is a financial planet. And it's even written here that I just plucked this off a news title like liberal agenda being pushed in movies like Lightyear and The Little Mermaid turns off moviegoers, Leo.
Wow, interesting. But we're seeing that already, so
Yeah, so it's not a surprise. It wouldn't be a surprise. And what's happening close to home, because this just happened in Singapore, Walt Disney Company's Lucasfilm is winding down its operations in Singapore after almost 20 years in the country, reflecting challenges in the industry.
oh, so they're closing offices already.
And to just kind of paint to people like where do I see the before I even do that, let me just go through what's on the right because the fonts are much bigger. So I've actually combined one other planet which I found to be very telling is that 165-degree aspect to Saturn in Pisces.
Okay.
165-degree aspect is not commonly known. It's called Queen de Chile.
Don't even know.
Or depending how you pronounce that. Okay, 165-degree aspect is just an aspect of motivation, obsession, and you gotta get it no matter what. Okay, just kind of keep that in mind. So if it's aspecting anything via that aspect means that somehow that planet's energies get pushed into this chart's prominence for whatever reason. Okay. Saturn, isn't it sanctions?
Yeah.
Lock. Pisces, isn't it oil?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yes.
Neptune, Pisces.
Yes.
So when we talk about the BRICS currency, isn't it just to evade sanctions by the US?
Well, that's absolutely, yeah. That's why
and
now countries are joining in because they don't want to be,
And Pisces is also a lot of water. It represents the ocean.
Mhm.
Saturn is like the world. So worldwide floods.
Oh, yes. They've been having them in China now. It's very
Worldwide floods.
well, since Saturn entered Pisces, floods, dams going, two huge dams have broken down. It's a lot of this water floods, or I think they'll keep happening till Saturn is in Pisces.
And so I've actually written here in bigger fonts because I just kind of looked at the whole chart and just something just popped, you know what I mean? I think I'm reading charts a lot more intuitively after I attended mystery schools. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of like, spiritual stuff to just kind of,
That's
um,
that's what astrology should be, a tool that leads to your intuition eventually, rather
yeah.
than that's how it should be done.
And Saturn is also one of the planets of like manpower as well. And in Pisces can also mean redundancy. So I've written here as the first point is like extensive need for medical staff due to previous redundancies or somehow shortages. I think we've kind of seen that as well in the medical profession, like nurses, doctors, like leaving for one country to another because the cost of living crisis, all
Yeah.
those stuff. Cost of living crisis is basically here because Taurus is about prices as well. Go
Yeah.
through the roof, and it pushes them to migrate, like doctors and nurses from the UK, screw all this, are migrating to Australia, New Zealand.
Mhm.
I've been seeing that a lot. And also not forgetting that quite a number of nurses and doctors decide to leave the service back in the
And
previous few years because they are not willing to take the liquid into their system. So now when the whole world has kind of come out from lockdowns and there's a shortage suddenly. And also, the medical profession, they are not being paid well as well. So it really like brings in the whole aspect of that. And I've also put down here that, the legal lawsuits getting to the bottom of things from the liquid being mandated years ago. And there's potential extensive allergic reactions or myocarditis or, heart-related issues that were caused. And lawsuits may be coming well and alive on their way.
definitely, Pisces is all those issues. Saturn is the repercussions, the results, and
And if I were to combine Saturn in Pisces and combine that via an aspect to that Venus star point, this can be like conflicts that is aimed to control international shipping routes
ah, yeah.
via taking tangible actions. And this is done via like an ideology reunification. I'm talking about Taiwan and China.
Mhm.
And it's coming over this Venus star point, unfortunately. Yeah. And right below, I've typed what's actually going on in China, because if we actually look at that Jupiter-Uranus midpoint squaring, like I mentioned before, and I bring in the Saturn in Pisces. Pisces, isn't it bankruptcy?
Mhm.
Saturn is land, as in physical land.
Mhm.
And the Jupiter and Uranus midpoint, isn't it referring to Evergrande and Country Garden? The two biggest
Oh, the biggest companies.
property developers in China that's like over leveraging, and they've gotten themselves into a whole lot of toxic debts.
Yes.
And it's the imminent collapse of the housing market, Taurus.
Mhm.
Taurus is housing, right? Basic needs on a scale that's unimaginable because of, these two planets coming together.
Mhm.
And over leveraging can also be seen here.
Mhm.
And this just basically will drag down the whole world economy, and everything's unfolding in front of our eyes for those who are following China news.
So do you think it will happen just in China, that there is a big collapse of the housing market, or is it gonna follow into Europe, the States?
I think it's just all across the world because interest rates are pushed up all across the world, right? I know of clients and ex-clients, and also some overseas friends in which like their house are undergoing foreclosure.
Because they can, well, aren't they at fixed rate, or most people are not on a fixed rate?
Most people are, well, unfortunately, they just kind of, because the interest rate was so low, right? For the longest time. And so they went for floating rates. Yeah. And then once the floating rate, those few years are up, suddenly the interest rate, the new one comes in like 4 or 5 or higher percent, and then the mortgage just went crazy.
Yeah.
Like double or triple. Yeah. So this is on the backs of a global slowdown and, very, very deep recession, at least like for the next coming few years before things get better. And this can also be, okay, this is one that I've talked to some people, and going back to the point in which I made about refugees being all over the world and this becoming like a huge big issue. After pulling in the Uranus, pulling in the Saturn, pulling in the Mars and Mercury midpoint, I think people have to be on the lookout that there may be some logical reason or common sense reason, Saturn is common sense, reason that they are maybe not as paranoid as they seem when they look at refugees.
Mm-hmm.
Because it may be that there may be some terrorists, military spies or agents being embedded in the refugee population that's on their homeland, home turf.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is one that they may have to be more alert.
Yes. Where do you get
Yeah.
the terrorist part from?
The what?
Where do you get that they might be like terrorists or dangerous? From which aspect?
Because of that Mars and Mercury
Okay.
in
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And sextiling the moon. And the midpoint, Mars and moon, is bang on that 20-degree Leo.
Okay.
And that Saturn in Pisces can mean refugees who flee their homeland to come to yours.
Mm-hmm.
But then the spy and the military agents kind of stuff comes in because Jupiter, Uranus together can mean someone of that nature as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it all kind of comes into one thing. And for the next one, I'll get to it later because I just want to put here as a summary that Leo represents children.
Okay.
Jupiter is mass media.
Okay. Yeah.
Uranus can mean organized crimes, but Uranus can mean trafficking as well.
Is it? Wow.
Against a person's consent. Consent is Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
And anything Uranus can be premeditated, and Leo can represent some kind of fetishization. So fetishization of children.
Mm. Mm.
And I've written here because I don't like people to slam us in the comments. So I put down here like something trafficking and also as slavery. If people want to read, they can read the slides. And this is on top of like potentially fake alien invasion because Jupiter, Uranus can mean alien spaceships.
Yes. Oh, I don't think it will go. Well, now they're talking openly about that there is
Yeah.
a
Yeah. And the next part, I think we've just basically touched on, right? Like organized online phishing scams.
Oh, yes.
Not forgetting that this Leo Venus star point is the last star point in which Pluto is in Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
The next star point in 2024, Pluto will be fully in Aquarius.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not moving back anymore. So it's like this kind of urgency, so to speak. And we've basically talked about, the BRICS digital currency. What does it do? Tokenization of assets and central government digital currency, all those stuff. So I don't need to like repeat myself again. And the next one I think is pretty much playing out in the world. Exacerbation of natural disasters.
Oh.
Because of man-made hydroelectric dams. I'm referring to China. And the hydroelectric dams are like the government, Leo, the government's vanity and money churning project, squaring that Jupiter, money in Taurus. And then there's indiscriminate floodwater discharges, which is that 165-degree aspect to Saturn in Pisces. Okay, because literally like dams, a dam is to block, right? Is Saturn. Block water, Pisces. Okay, and just to wrap it up here, because these are the activation dates for this Venus star point. And this star point, my God, is so activated throughout the whole 9.5 months coming up. And I just want to bring your attention to November 2023, because we have a new moon conjunct Mars at 20 degrees Scorpio, exactly squaring the star point and exactly opposing Jupiter-Uranus midpoint. So the new moon conjunct Mars will be here. So I expect November is going to be a shit show, pardon my language, because literally shit is represented by Scorpio. And we sorry, I'm in my unhinged era. And also moving forward in April, that week of 15 to 21st of April 2024, we do have that imminent Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at around 21-ish degrees of Taurus.
So a lot of the things that we talked about involving Jupiter-Uranus, that maybe it's when it's going to get activated.
So this month, so 15, 21st April next year. And then after that, there's actually 7th to 9th of May 2024, there's a lunation around 20 to 22 degrees of Taurus again.
Wow. So this will be the period that this Venus-Sun lunation point
that point here
most active, because it's most active the next 9 months, something like that. 12.
Because if you recall, like there's a lot of activations at 20 degrees of the fixed signs. So it's either squaring, opposing,
yes,
conjuncting, so on and so forth. So those are the dates I'm looking for. Well, I can't look forward to such things, but it's
yeah,
more, I mean, just a blunder. It's a new moon, remember, squaring Uranus. I'm not looking forward to it, but these are the key dates that people may want to jot down. And the rest of the dates are just like, it's still important because it's still an activation, but it's not as sharp as those months I just mentioned.
Wow.
And if I were to just do the Astro-cartography map, this Venus star point, you can see that I've highlighted all those in pink. Those are the areas of interest. And that's quite a lot of areas of interest. I know. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? You know what I mean? So let's start, I think, in chronological order, because I don't want to mess things up. Let us start with on the left side of the map. And I've actually pulled up a map pertaining to Mexico City, actually. Of all places, which is around here, right? Mexico City. Around here. And let us zoom into that. And this map, I got it from a reliable source. And basically, there's just a lot of implications that Mexico City is sinking faster. I think the process is called subsidence. The same thing is also going on in Jakarta, Indonesia, whereby the capital, Leo is capital, is actually sinking into Earth, square Jupiter-Uranus midpoint in Taurus, sinking to the ground. And I can see places around that area, particularly Mexico City, in which people might be displaced because of it.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
It's that Chiron thing that comes forth. You know what I mean? That Chiron series thing. It's like, series is where we feel nurtured. It can also sometimes refer to comfort in the home, and it's opposing Chiron. You gotta be displaced, you gotta be alienated, you gotta be isolated.
Oh.
So this is getting our attention. And all those in pink, what I highlighted are those that, close to 18 to 22 degree activations from what I can see.
Mm-hmm.
And those all point to like the accelerated subsidence or sinking of the capital city, of that capital city. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's happening all around the world, right? If it's not sinking into the earth, it's definitely fires.
Oh, plus.
So I'm like, yeah. Now let's move on to okay, this part is pretty obvious because it's right over Brazil, and Brazil is one of the BRICS economy, and they are also part of the parties that's in charge of pushing out the BRICS digital currency. So this one, I will leave it as is. The next one is very interesting because it actually cuts across all of Central Africa, and it goes up to Europe. I mean, we all heard of neo-colonization, right?
Uh-huh.
How the African continent got controlled by Europe from all the previous colonizations and all their resources, Taurus.
Well, that's why what's happening in Niger now, they're
Yeah, Niger. Yeah.
and
And
Europe is
let
fighting them.
yeah, and was it with Mali as well? I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
And all the stuff that's going on there. So let me just show the audience. Okay, so I've actually put this chart that represents Central African Republic. That's right in the center, and then the progression and solar arc. The fact that recently Putin met up with all the African leaders, and it seems to be quite a successful one because the African leaders is like, we can find new friends, Uranus. Friends, is it Uranus? Yeah. That's more likable. And this is done through Putin in St. Petersburg, I think recently as well. That's when Venus was already in Leo, with the sun catching up. And the African continent may want to find new friends within the BRICS nations.
Mm-hmm. By
And
the
that's
way,
because,
Africa, it's Leo for me. So that's again,
yes. So
Africa.
you can see like Sun and Uranus, 21 Leo.
Yeah. Wow.
And I see it's not too far. And that's because actually like Putin actually promised them green security. You can see it from their NATO chart. Series, isn't it grains?
Oh, grain security. Yeah, yes. And that's serious, grains. Wow.
And
Okay.
like conjunct the sign of friends, we can find new friends that can offer us green security. And it's and also like I think Putin also like pardoned previous debts that the African continent ruled for certain parts of it.
Wow.
So it's that Jupiter Uranus midpoint in Taurus, like pardoning debt, previous debt. And these are, I mean, what Putin is doing is literally getting more friends on their friendship ship, in order to facilitate the de-dollarization process from the US petrodollar, and also have more, more trading relations with the African continent's richness in resources, Taurus. And I think Africa is more or less like kind of sick of like, their continent being exploited by the West, like in past centuries due to colonization. That Jupiter-Uranus conjunct, isn't it colonization? In Taurus, take their resources.
And they kept poor on purpose almost.
I think Mali like has got so many gold mines but they don't have gold reserves. France, they don't have any gold mines, but they got tons of gold reserves.
Yeah, they should be the richest continent. I see what the dominant forces are doing. They're doing it also in my country. We have so much gold in my country, and they're paying something like they're taking how many tons of gold from the mountains, some Canadian company, private company, and not paying anything for the government. So that's what they're doing in Africa. And those countries, instead of thriving, instead of living like, what was it, the Black Panther, Wakanda, they are on the verge of hunger. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
No, it's all good. I mean, if we just look at, so I find it like, like this part and this part, it cuts over Moscow and it cuts over Central Africa. I find it very, very interesting because the meeting with the African leaders organized by Putin is all held there in St. Petersburg, which is over here. And then you've got, this cuts through the main central part of Africa. So I find it very interesting. And this also cuts through like Western Europe, the colonizers, the new colonizers. And now let's move forward to somewhere closer to my home. And let us look at China. Probably the main thing I want to talk about within this little chat that we are having. So, okay. So I'm going to use the leader of China right now because I've got a rectified chart of his. And he's got Pluto rising in the first house at 20 degrees of Leo. So the Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus is in his transiting in his 10th house. And then all those that I've highlighted are all those things that's 20 to 21 degrees. Basically, what China is experiencing now is that there's a lot of natural disasters. I think like Lada mentioned earlier on, which is about all the sinking and all the floods. And this is all linked to like ground, which is Taurus, because the VSP is squaring Taurus, which is ground. And then the Venus star point in 165-degree aspect to Saturn in Pisces, groundwater, because Pisces is a water sign. And then the moon in the chart just now is also in its rulership in Cancer. So you can see there's like water themes going on there. And that's leading to the collapse Pisces of the capital, which in this case, I think if you're on the news, like recently you have known that there's actually like flood water being discharged in order to save Beijing, and also the Xiong'an, which is like the next administrative area coming up, is to save those things, and then they flood the rest of the country, and all the disaster relief, or the lack of, I would say the lack of, and all the blockages of social media, and just everything according to that. And I just want to point to you that I do see in this chart, not using the Venus star point, but by using predictive astrology, that after March of 2024, all bets are off pertaining to the invasion of Taiwan from China to reunify their ideology. And this comes after late March 2024, well within this Venus star point. And the key months which I mentioned, like November 2023, with the Scorpio new moon conjunct Mars, 20 degrees. And we've got Jupiter Uranus conjunct in April, then a lunation in May. Yeah, it doesn't look good in terms of whether a unification war is going to start, but it's just when. And it's within this Venus star point, unfortunately. And yeah, so I've written here late March 2024 onwards, all bets are off. But China right now is trying to fix all the issues in their backyard, because China, there's a lot of things happening after they come out of zero COVID policy from December 2022 onwards. And after analyzing certain charts, I actually agree that, like, wow, a few of them, you shouldn't be surprised. They are having a rapidly accelerating aging demography, the fastest ever because of the previous disaster of the one-child policy. The golden child is Leo, by the way.
Makes
And there's also like the Japanification of its economy, because Japan did go through extended deflation, which is what China's undergoing. And they do have a lost decade in their economy, and they never quite recovered from that. And also, like, China used to be the factory of the world, but it seems that now, companies are just pulling the plug. So, and then of course, housing sector, we've covered Evergrande and Country Garden. That square of the Venus star point to Jupiter and Uranus doesn't look good. And this is transiting in this guy's 10th house.
Yeah, wow.
So it's going to affect his presidency 10th house. And so this kind of leads me to think that this reunification with Taiwan, whatever that's going to be done in the coming few months, it's really coming from him wanting to hold on to power, 10th house. It's almost like a last-ditch effort to push the Communist Party's ideology, its prowess, the political ideal that they're trying to indoctrinate, and it's done via like military force to unify with Taiwan.
Wow.
So I always suggest people, if you want to go Taiwan and visit, go before late March 2024. That's all I want to say pertaining to this. And not surprisingly, India and Pakistan also have their sun at 21 degrees of Leo.
Oh, wow. So they're strongly affected too.
So for India's case, I think they are playing both sides because they don't want to replace their Indian rupees with the BRICS currency. And then recently, I think India's prime minister went to America to sign a couple of new documents, and that includes like having access to space technology and knowledge, Uranus space rockets, squaring. So it all falls into place, and companies who moved out of China are moving to India. So India's benefiting financially as well. Like I think the Apple factory or Foxconn, they're trying to set base in India after they get out of China. So, and the other country beside it is Pakistan. They are going through not exactly financially flourishing. They're actually going through debt crisis and imminent bankruptcy countrywide.
Oh.
Their sun is also around 21 degrees of Leo. And then both of their countries have Jupiter in Scorpio, around 20 degrees as well. So squaring.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff going on. And then, of course, there's religious wars going on in India. I think the shocking video from Manipur, Manipur, was shocking, but I think at this point, I'm numb to a lot of things.
I know.
You have to be a bit numb when you do astrology. Yeah. You have to be a bit numb. And I think I got 3 more charts just very briefly. I did talk about the fetishization of children. And if you think about it, Leo is children, squaring that Uranus in Taurus.
Perversions, Uranus.
Perversions, yes. It's also trafficking. Organized crime is also Uranus. But Uranus is freedom and Taurus is sound. Don't we have a movie called Sound of Freedom?
The Sound of Freedom. Yes.
That came out to cause a stir, but I wouldn't personally support that, because after if you follow the trail of money, you wouldn't want to support. Yeah, you wouldn't want to support as well. And it's all about all the underground stuff, right? Yeah. So the first person that came to mind, I suppose, Lada, you posted about her as well, Sinead O'Connor.
Oh.
I mean, she's got a very rough childhood, and it's very well documented that she's before she passed, unfortunately, when Venus was about to go retrograde in Leo, she unfortunately exited this plane. And through past interviews, it's well documented that she's been vocal about her own childhood experiences with her mom. Yeah. And What's really interesting here is that her Venus star point is around 16 degrees of Scorpio conjunct South Node.
Her okay,
Her
so
natal, yeah.
okay.
And it's very close to the 12th house, something that is like, yeah, pretty hidden. And but she's not afraid to speak up though with that Sun and Venus in her first house to broadcast Sagittarius to the world, what she's gone through. But what's really interesting is that what I've gotten from her chart is that her VSP co-ruler, which is Mars, because Mars co-rules Scorpio, that Mars is angular in Libra and is squaring Ceres. And she's being kind of in the midst of all the abuses going on with her growing up. I think it's from the mother. It's almost like she got a like bang on her own womb to kind of knock the woman out of her.
Yes, she
That
was
kind of
jumping on her womb.
so is that yeah. So it's like all the traumas. And what's even more interesting is that if I actually look at the day whereby she passed, which is late July, I plotted her natal progress and solar arc direction and see where 20 degrees Leo, what does it hit? It basically hits Saturn Pluto direct midpoint. So it's to really exit the Earth plane. Saturn Pluto direct midpoint is exit the Earth plane. And you got all this stuff, but there's a lot of Pluto activations. So Pluto is to go into the underworld and kind of like, exit this Earth plane. Yeah. So I would say overall it's a very tortured soul, and hopefully she can find some solace in the other dimensions as well. And when I usually talk with people regarding this sound of freedom film, a certain celebrity's name tend to always come up, and that's Brooke Shields. Why Brooke Shields? If you look at there's a cluster of stuff at around 20-21 degrees, right? That's highlighted by that 20 degrees Leo Venus star points. Did you know back in 1976 January, Brooke Shields was age 10 and she appeared fully everything out on Playboy. And that copy is still very much, you can buy if you're collectors, but isn't that kind of like that shoving in our face the premeditated fetishization of children? Yeah, imagine appearing age 10 in Playboy, fully just everything out, Yeah, and now it's almost like this Venus star point right now we have is like trying to perpetuate that thing as well. And also one thing, maybe this applies to you, Lada, like maybe also parents as well out there, you may want to minimize posting your kids on your social media. Because the kid's face can be AI into a chatbot for some more sinister organized crime, online scams, or all those stuff, because AI.
It's too late now. I have to delete all my accounts. But
I mean, go ahead. I mean, or at least like trying to minimize that, because AI has come such a long way that it takes a much shorter time to learn the face and regenerate like a 3D composition, and that face can be plugged onto something that's very unsavory. And people can just pay a fee to watch. Yeah. And also like, have an AI chatbot chatting with them. And you know where I'm getting at, right? So
yeah.
So just kind of watch out. And even like Mark Zuckerberg himself, is blurring out the children's face in the photo. Yeah.
I've got a lot of homework then. A lot of blurring to do. Oh my God.
It's not only pertaining to the younger one for you. I'm talking about both, both of them. So I don't know if I hate to do this, but like I just have to tell you as because it's in the protection of them. Because if you think about it, like it's not as safe as it was. Now with AI coming up so fast and the rate of learning. And last but not least, let's do a bit of this one. The last one I want to talk about will be going back to the this part of the world. And let's talk about Canada to finish it off. And I'm talking about Justin Trudeau. And yeah, because Justin Trudeau, when Venus is already in Leo, like he and the now wife are like announcing their separation. And I just kind of, I got a bit nosy, right? That's what astrologers do, a bit nosy. And I looked into his chart, and all those in highlighted are those stuff that was highlighted by this Leo Venus star point currently. But if I actually backtrack and I've like kind of pieced together the timeline, they were already separated back in 2020 under the previous Leo Venus star point, just around lockdown time, when the transit Venus star point was 21 degrees, 11 minutes of Leo. And that's with all the activations that I've written here. People can read it. And there seems to be cheating rumors already back then. And but as you know, the world went into lockdown and it's not convenient. They have to like paint this picture they're together, and there's clips of like the couple. I think they're already like living apart, separated, living in different residences. And then they gotta film this like public service announcement, and the camera yelled cut, and camera yelled kiss, and then they were like pausing for 10-15 seconds.
Oh,
being really, yeah, they're so reluctant to cut. Like,
so it happened way before that in 20.
Yeah, it's like the previous Leo Venus star point. Yeah, and then like and then immediately after the Leo one in June 2020, we've got the 13 degrees, 35 minutes Gemini. That one paints another set of events. And right now in 20 degrees of Leo, like it's in his 12th house. So 12th house can mean clandestine or secretive relationships. Because it's in Leo, right? Leo is love. Yeah. So because it's in Leo, I don't want to name names, but this can include certain royalties, Leo.
Famous people. Oh yeah.
And also certain celebrities whose inside their so-called cheating scandals, or who's been sleeping with who. And
let's see.
I would say that not one but both of them are guilty of stepping outside the boundaries of marriage. Not only Justin though. Yeah, it's like Sophie is also guilty as charged. So
there are like rumors about who it is already.
Yeah. That's why I said royalties, hint, and also certain movie star.
Okay.
Male movie star, by the way.
Male. Oh, okay.
So I will just leave it as that, because yeah.
Okay, a lot of truth bombs, Donny. I'm like,
I mean, I told you I'm in my unhinged era, so this is
you warned me. You warned me, and you said this is quite controversial. Are you ready? Are you okay? Yeah.
But under the formation of this Venus star point now, they're going to official announcements of separation, all those stuff, after like 18 to 19 years of marriage. And 18 to 19 years, isn't it a nodal axis return?
Oh yes, exactly. Oh yeah.
And he's got South Node in Leo, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
So, and he's got 22 degrees series in the 12th house. I was like, yeah, it started some time ago, because 4 years back, the star point was 21 degrees. It's even closer to series. I was like, there must be something. Yeah, it could be also a male Canadian politician that one of them is linked with. I wouldn't say who, because it's too salacious. Yeah.
I'm like getting all red here, blushing.
I know. I'm clutching my pearls. So so I would just leave it to people to ponder, and a lot of things to unpack. And I think I've said enough. I just want to let my probably people who listen to me, I wouldn't want to listen to myself, that like, thank you so much, and I just want to let you know that I'm well and alive.
Yes, because People have been asking so much about you, and you came now like ready to really shine and to speak up your truth. This Uranus is really, really like shining in you.
I
But
mean, the thing is that I think like I needed to go away to do some spiritual stuff because I need to ground that within myself to grow more within, evolve myself more. I think that's what the Venus star point is about, right? Is that non-stop evolutionary spiral journey.
and you
Yeah.
have the Venus sign behind you of the five.
Yeah. Pay
Wonderful.
respect. She's really the bomb. Yeah.
Well, I know that ancient Mayans, they were using only Venus, the Venus cycle for predictions. That's also,
Yeah.
you're doing that. So you're a master astrologer on the Venus cycle. And by the way, in ancient Babylon, the Venus cycle was the most important as well. So
Oh,
thanks so much.
and by the way, this before I forget, this Venus star point, Venus by I think latitude is 7 degrees north. So what I'm trying to say is that this Sun Venus is not exactly Kazimi.
It didn't form a Kazimi this time, yeah.
It is still wide enough that 7 degree north, the where Venus is, it is still inside the visible range. So we can actually see Venus pretty soon. Actually, I'm very pumped. I hope to see her in the sky soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
around the 18th, 19th, 20th, we're expecting it.
And
So
it could be in more areas of the Earth that we can see this. Because it's not exactly a Kazimi. It doesn't go, it's not totally blocked out by the sun.
thank you so much, Donny. Again, if anyone would like to contact Donny for a personal reading, just read the text. I'm putting a link below. And Donny will soon start teaching. We're looking forward to that for you. I'm sure many people want from you because of your vast knowledge and techniques. So thank you so much, Donny. I have a lot to think on. I'm sure everyone else has a lot.
I think first and foremost for you, Lada, is to go through the photos of those two babies of yours and just kind of to kind of safeguard because you wouldn't want because we still haven't gotten to the stage of tokenizing our assets, and our children are our assets. Children are also assets to parents, so you gotta safeguard them as well. Taurus. Yeah.
Thank you. So many amazing tips and advice and insights. Your mind is brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. You can write to Donny in the comments below, contact him. I'll put a link for you to contact him if you want to speak with him or ask him anything. Again, thank you for this inspiration.
Yes, don't forget to like, don't forget to comment.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe. I'm helping you out, Lada.
I never say those things. Anyway. And on your videos, always. There is always.
Okay.
Have a great day.
All right, ciao for now.
Bye.